Fall is all about cozy comforts, and with Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your favorites and still hit your health goals. From breakfast bagels and meal prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's FALL25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.
Oh yeah, look at my life, hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Oh yeah, look at my life, hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Hey now.
Hey now! How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Brand new episode ready to go as we sit just 6 weeks from Christmas. 6 weeks from today, we'll all be rocking around the Christmas tree and exchanging gifts. But if you look at the latest numbers, Canadians are planning to spend a heck of a lot less on Christmas this year. And that is not good news for our economy, but sign of the times. Canada 2025, middle class is broke. Today on the pod, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things. This episode is going to be filled with content that you should hear. On here today, you're going to hear from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. He's finally talking for the first time since he had one of his members cross the floor to the Liberals. That's coming up. You're also going to hear from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who's going to be talking about a number of different things, including something that's going to be talked about today. Prime Minister Carney is releasing his list of nation-building projects. But one of the ones that Doug Ford wants, a big giant tunnel under the 401, is not going to be on there. So you'll hear from Doug Ford. Also yesterday, our Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand, was wrapping up her G7 Foreign Ministers Conference in Niagara-on-the-Lake. She made some weird announcements yesterday. She was kind of evasive on some of the questions, so I'm going to play that for you. You'll hear it right here in this episode of After 9. Before I get into it, though, tomorrow, listener DMs episode. Tomorrow, I've got some great DMs that came in. I'm going to be talking about cloned meat, which is now legal, and they don't even need to tell you it's not real meat. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Private school educations, vacant home taxes, soon coming to Guelph, and if they aren't already in your city, they're going to be soon. This is a tool that rogue mayors see as an opportunity to make money for themselves. They're going to tax you if you don't spend enough time in your own home. And the argument is, well, if you're not using it, somebody else should. Either use it, pay an extra tax on it, or rent it out. Well, I have a huge problem with that because I think government has absolutely no business whatsoever telling you what you can and can't do with your own home. If you want to leave your home empty and don't want to have a stranger living in it, well, I don't know, you vacation in Florida 6 months a year or something like that. That is absolutely your right. The city has no business being involved in your home. But a vacant home tax is something that's come up. UBI, Universal Basic Income. I got a lot of DMs on that. I'll be talking about it tomorrow. A lot of people still not sure how they feel about that topic. So we'll sort out some of the pros and cons on tomorrow's episode. And I'm also going to be talking about, by request, Quebec doctors. Absolutely outraged that the Quebec government would dare try and link their pay to performance. What? Isn't everybody's pay linked to performance? We'll talk about that tomorrow right here on the podcast. Thank you for downloading this episode. I appreciate you. I'll get into it in 1 minute. Just a quick reminder, Saturday night, if you're in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, I'm going to be at Elements Nightclub in Kitchener. Elements is a place that I used to be at every Saturday night, throwing a dance party for years back in the early 2000s. This Saturday, the reunion. And I know we're all a little older. Maybe we'll wrap it up a little earlier, but it's going to be a great night, Saturday night in Kitchener at Elements on King Street. Tickets are $15 at the door, and I hope you can join me. Now let's jump into this episode, and we're going to start off with the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre hasn't really talked since he had that member, Chris D'Entremont, cross the floor over to the Liberals. I think that was brilliant. The media took that like a dog with a bone and ran with that story for a long, long time. And in a few minutes, you're going to hear them ask Pierre about that topic. But first, let's hear a little bit of his speech yesterday talking about affordability measures that he wants to introduce for the Canadian middle class.
They quote, I'm quoting them to say, what was once a promise to deliver 500,000 new homes annually has now become a plan that will cost 100,000 jobs. Canadians are now facing the prospect of a worsening crisis that will impact housing supply, employment, economic activity, and ultimately middle-class families. So this budget, which increases home building taxes, risks 100,000 home building jobs, according to the people who actually build homes. I have here a quote from Fitch Budget. Fitch, the credit rating agency, and they say that this deficit, which Mark Carney has doubled, will now threaten our credit rating. Then you'll believe Fitch, which said Canada's proposed budget, announced in Parliament November 4th, underscores the erosion of the federal government's finances. While Canada's rating is broadly stable, persistent fiscal expansion and a rising debt burden have weakened its credit profile and could increase rating pressure over the medium term. The budget expands the forecast federal deficit to $78.3 billion, general government deficits of 3.3% of GDP, which is higher than the AA median of 2.3 and substantially higher than Canada's pre-pandemic deficits, which averaged 0.4 in the prior decades. And finally, it says that combined with the sizable non-budgetary financing needs, the higher deficit will substantially increase general government debt, which is forecast to be 92% of GDP in 2025, up from 88.6% in 2024, before accelerating to 98.5% by 2027, nearly double the forecast AA medium of 49.6. Now, those are a lot of numbers, but let's cut right down to it.
I'm just going to pause Pierre right there because I would like him to cut to it. A lot of numbers, like he said, but wow, is that ever concerning? If you have to, hit that back 15 seconds button a couple of times and listen to that again. That's coming from Fitch. They're a credit rating agency for countries. And they're deeply concerned about what's about to happen here in Canada if this budget goes through. Here's more of Pierre Poilievre.
To be a AA rated country, on average, your debt to GDP is 49.6%. Carney's on track to bring ours to nearly 100%. In other words, our debt as a share of GDP will be almost twice the size of the average AA country. That's the kind of fiscal mess that Mark Carney and the Liberals are creating. So much for he's gone from promising to be a brilliant economist to being the most costly, reckless, and risky prime minister in Canadian history, and that is why Conservatives will oppose it. But we not only oppose, we propose. Our proposal is to cut bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, handouts to phony refugees, and other wasted money so we can bring down debt, taxes, and inflation. We would get rid of the industrial carbon tax to unlock the industrial engine of our nation and to reduce the price of everything made with steel, aluminum, cement, concrete, glass. That is everything that we buy. We will cap government spending for a dollar for dollar law, requiring we find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. We'll make this the fastest place on earth to get a building permit, repeal the anti-energy laws, use the powers in C5 to rapidly approve a pipeline to the Pacific so we can get 1 million barrels of oil to Asia every single day. We will get rid of the capital gains tax on anyone who reinvests their money in Canada to bring home the $500 billion of net investment that Mark Carney and the Liberals have sent fleeing to the United States of America. We will cut income tax so hard work pays off. We will get rid of all home building taxes, not only to provide affordable homes to the next generation, but also to bring back the 100,000 trades jobs so carpenters can swing hammers, framers can frame homes, loggers can harvest lumber, and we can build a tariff-proof industry back to life in this country.
Okay, that's enough. I'm good. I get the point. But I hope you do too, because what we have in front of us here, friends, is two very different strategies about where Canada should go. See, on one hand, you've got the federal Liberals in government right now. That's Prime Minister Mark Carney. They believe in tax and spend. They tax the people, they spend the money. They say this will eventually lead to great results for Canada. And then you've got the conservative philosophy. They want to cut taxes. They want to cut regulations. They want to cut a whole bunch of different things so that we save money, put more money back in the people's pockets, basically wipe out inflation because there won't be any more money printing, and deregulate a lot of the regulations that are in place now that prevent us from getting our product out to market, to potential customers around the world. Do we want tax cuts or do we want tax and spend? Well, I guess that depends who you think is going to be more successful or which plan you think is better. Me personally, I think that if we all had more money in our pockets to be able to go out and buy Christmas presents, to be able to go out and buy a new car, to take a vacation, to do all of the different things that we do when we've got a little bit of money set aside, I think that that would be better for the economy overall. I also think that that would apply to small business owners. They too would have more money, making it more appealing for them to want to hire more people. And that creates more jobs. Two totally different philosophies on how to run an economy. Now, we saw the Liberal side for the last 10 years. Mark Carney isn't just going to continue that. He's doubling down on that. And as you heard Pierre say, he is doubling our debt, at least doubling it. We have no idea how much it's going to end up at or if that'll work. Or the conservative plan, tax people less, let them keep more of their own money, get rid of a lot of the Trudeau regulations, cut them completely so we can get our product out to market and we can make the middle class prosperous. To me, this is a no-brainer. To me, it's obvious which way we should be going. But I'm not here to try and convince you. I'm just giving you the facts. You've heard two different strategies now. Lots of Mark Carney for the last few days because Pierre hasn't said much. Now you've heard Pierre lay out what he wants to do to try and quote unquote save Canada. So there we go. Now let's get to some of the Q&A because the reporters were dying to ask Pierre Poilievre questions, particularly about Chris d'Entremont, the one member who left the Conservative Party of Canada and decided to join the Liberals. By the way, every single day I read a new story about Chris d'Entremont that makes me like this guy even less. He seems like a real opportunistic slime ball that was really butthurt that he did not get the deputy speaker position, which, by the way, comes with a car and driver. It comes with a much bigger salary. There's an apartment in the parliamentary precinct and a whole bunch more. He wanted those perks, and when he didn't get them, he took his ball and went home, right over to the Liberals. Crazy. Here is Pierre Poilievre. The first question is going to be about the floor crosser.
Hey, Tim Brooks, CTV. You lost two MPs the week of the budget. One cited your leadership as a reason for leaving. I just want to put Carney and the Liberals to the side here, just as you personally.
Of course you do.
Does this say anything about your leadership? Have you maybe reflected on your leadership style moving forward?
No, we are. My plan is to continue to lead and be the only leader in the country that's fighting for an affordable Canada, where our people who work hard can afford a home and food. That is my agenda. And I will just quote Mr. d'Entremont when he speaks about Mark Carney. He says, after 6 months under a new Prime Minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting. He said that he would be judged by the cost of groceries at the store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they are not impressed. He said this only a few months ago. Since the Liberals came to power, food prices are up 40%. We have heard it many times here today. It is deliberate, and it is unacceptable. It is inhumane, said Mr. d'Entremont, for a G7 country. So he said that Liberal food price inflation under Mark Carney was inhumane, and I couldn't agree more. And I feel badly for the inhumane conditions, to use his own words, that he is now supporting for his own constituents. But I won't just quote him. I'll quote Nate Erskine-Smith, a Liberal MP, who now says that his children should not have to pay for Mark Carney's budget. Let me see here. Now to the bad and more fairly, where expectations were set at a level we failed to meet, including on the question of generational investments. The budget falls short of these specific promises in our platform, and it unfortunately falls well short of the wartime home building effort that many of us thought we'd deliver. It's certainly not a budget that should throw us into an election at an uncertain time, but it does not live up to its promise of generational investments. He goes on to say, this is Mr. Nate Erskine-Smith, a Liberal MP, that Mark Carney has broke his promise to spend less, with $90 billion of new spending, only 36% of which is actually capital. The rest is more costs. So when you have a Liberal MP attacking the costly credit card budget that Mr. Carney has put forward, then we see turmoil in the Liberals, and I know that there will be wall-to-wall coverage on CTV of this turmoil, of a Liberal MP criticizing his own budget days before the vote. I know you're camped outside his office right now, waiting to get comment from him. I know you've been chasing Mark Carney down hallways to find out what he has to say. I mean, it's just been the relentless coverage that you will have of this dissent within the Liberal Party. I understand also there's former Liberal Minister Guilbeault is unhappy with the environmental policies that while he supports raising costs, he doesn't think they raise them enough. We've got Wilkinson is unhappy. So I know that I'm looking forward to seeing the wall-to-wall coverage on CTV of all of the costly turmoil in the Liberal budget. So I will be tuning in tonight to watch your newscast. Thank you.
What a great troll job by Pierre Poilievre. Excellent, excellent, excellent work. And that's stating the obvious, something that I've been pointing out for over a week now, and something that I think every Canadian can see now, right? We can all see it. What the media did was try and latch on to anything so they didn't have to cover Mark Carney's budget. The polls are in. The vast majority of Canadians do not support this budget. But you'd never know that watching the news, would you? Because all they want to do is talk about the Conservatives and try and undermine Pierre Poilievre. Over a week of relentless, non-stop coverage about Pierre Poilievre's got to step down. Oh my God, the Conservative Party is in disarray thanks to Pierre's leadership. They all did it. They were very dishonest in doing it. And they were doing it to try and distract you from the budget. And the added bonus, the collateral damage, was maybe they might even get enough Conservatives to turn on Pierre so that they don't have to run against Pierre in the next election. By they, I actually meant the Liberals, but I also said the media and the Liberals are synonymous. You can use those two terms interchangeably because the mainstream media in Canada is the propaganda arm of the Liberal government. And there's no other way to see it. No reasonable, objective, common sense person could watch or listen to any mainstream media newscast right now and think, wow, that's very objective. It's very balanced coverage. I'm hearing all of the news and all of the coverage and all different angles on the story. No, there's an agenda right now. You just heard Pierre call it out. He did it very sarcastically and I think almost basically took the high road. Well, since Pierre's going to take the high road, I will go low. It's disgusting what these mainstream media news sources have been doing for the last week plus. We have a consequential budget in front of us, an extremely controversial one as well, and one that is not very popular amongst the Canadian people. The media will not cover that. They won't. They are much more interested in trying to sow dissent within the Conservative Party because they know Mark Carney does not want to go up against Pierre Poilievre again. They're trying to undermine Pierre and get Conservatives to flip on Pierre so that they can get a very Liberal-friendly candidate in there to run against Carney. And who do they want? Well, they want like a Doug Ford. They're all buddy-buddy with Doug. Or they want a Jean Charest, who many people don't even think is an actual Conservative. They want to run against somebody somewhat wishy-washy, someone in the middle, somewhat easier to argue against than it is with Pierre Poilievre. That's the strategy. Bank it, book it. It's happening in real time, and it's very, very dishonest. One of the best things you can do for your own sanity is turn off the mainstream media news. Now let's get to another question for Pierre Poilievre.
We've been told in Alberta for weeks, if not months, that on Grey Cup week, that we would get a win in Alberta. And that win would be a pipeline to the West Coast. It would be significant commitment to action on the so-called 9 bad laws, and that would all happen Grey Cup week. That is to say, tomorrow. We are also told somehow there might be some sort of memorandum of understanding between the province of Alberta and Carney. That's just floating out there. I don't know if that's confirmed. What are your thoughts? Because for weeks, months, we've been promised that Grey Cup week, the stamps aren't in, neither is Edmonton, but that Alberta would get a win on both of those files.
Well, tomorrow, it reminds me when you go into the pub, the Liberals are like that pub that has that sign on the wall that says free beer tomorrow. And so you come back the next day and it still says free beer tomorrow. And you keep coming back day after day for the promise of free beer, and the price of beer continues to rise and rise and rise. So they keep telling us that something is going to happen tomorrow. Mark Carney's been Prime Minister for 8 months, promising to move at, quote, unimaginable speeds. And yet there's not a single project that he has launched that was not already in the making or approved before he took office. Mark Carney needs to do only one thing for us to get a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. There are trillions of dollars of international investment crying out for the chance to build that pipeline without any government support. All they need is the federal government to stop blocking it. Get out of the way and repeal the 9 bad laws that block energy projects. Get out of the way and remove the ban on shipping oil off the northwest coast of BC, a ban that only applies to Canadians because, of course, American tankers can travel between Alaska and California in those very same waters, so why not allow Canadians to do the same? Get out of the way and get rid of the Liberal industrial carbon tax so that we can actually produce enough oil to fill a future pipeline. Get out of the way, Mark Carney, and do it now. It has been 8 months. We don't need Mark Carney to put on a hard hat and hold another photo op. He's had countless photo ops in the last 8 months, while investment flees and our industrial sector leaves to the United States of America. He's not got shovels in the ground on anything. Now, I suspect there will be some sort of quote-unquote memorandum. You know something? Memorandums don't pay the bills. We need shovels in ground. So Mark Carney should get out of the way and tell us on what date will shovels be in the ground on a new 1 million barrel a day pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to Prince Rupert or Kitimat, British Columbia. That's all he's got to do. Give us the date, show us where the shovel will hit the ground, and tell us on when it will happen. That is what we need to have. Get out of the way, Mark Carney.
Today, Mark Carney is going to announce the latest round of nation-building projects, as you heard in the question and the answer there from Pierre Poilievre. I'm underwhelmed. The list has leaked, and there's some stuff in there that is good. I don't see any of those things, though, solving Canada's problems. Good step forward, but none of those things are going to bring us back from the brink, and that's exactly where we're at right now. You heard earlier, talk from Fitch, the credit rating agency, about how bad things are with our economy. Mark Carney's job is to greenlight nation-building projects so that our steel and aluminum makers and our concrete makers and all these other people have somewhere to send their stuff. We'll use it to build up our infrastructure here. But we've got to do these infrastructure projects in the right order, and we've got to prioritize the ones that are going to bring in money. And we also need timelines. Pierre's absolutely right. It's all fine, well and good for Mark Carney to come out in a hard hat and announce we're going to build a pipeline. When? When will we be sending 1 million barrels of oil a day from Alberta to British Columbia? When will that happen? Because let's keep in mind here, the MO on this government, lots of announcements, very little follow through. We've seen it happen time and time and time and time and time again with Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. Not this time. There's too many people struggling. We need relief now. And it starts with getting money in the door. And we can't do that until these projects are actually built. And that's what I want to hear from Prime Minister Carney. Why we need this project to go first and when it's going to be done. Hell, when it's even going to be started. That would be a great start as well. I'm going to leave Pierre Poilievre there because there's other people we need to hear from in this episode.
Every holiday, I look for gifts that feel thoughtful and taste unforgettable. And Omaha Steaks never disappoints. From tender, juicy filet mignons to cozy comfort meals and gourmet sides, they make holiday entertaining effortless. I've given Omaha Steaks as a gift before, and the reaction is always pure excitement. The flavor, quality, and presentation are unmatched. Every cut is perfectly aged, hand-trimmed by master butchers, and guaranteed to impress. Whether you're hosting, gifting, or treating yourself, Omaha Steaks brings 5 generations of uncompromising quality to every celebration. Save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code FLAVOR at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code FLAVOR.
I'm going to go now to Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. Our Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand, hosted her counterparts from the G7. And she had some weird photo ops and news conferences throughout this one. It's kind of awkward, definitely cringy. Here is a question to Minister Anand about meeting with her U.S. counterpart, Marco Rubio.
Rachel Aiello, CTV News. You met with Marco Rubio today. Did either of you raise resuming trade talks? And if so, what was discussed?
I met bilaterally with Secretary Rubio, yes, and I also was obviously with him in multiple sessions throughout the past day and a half. In our bilateral meeting, we discussed a number of issues: the illegal war in Ukraine, a path to peace in the Middle East, and how we can work together in order to push forward that peace, the ongoing crisis in Haiti, on which we have worked substantially over the last number of months, and Arctic sovereignty. The issues relating to trade fall within the purview of my colleague Dominic LeBlanc, and that's where they remain, as they should.
Hold on a goddamn minute here. You mean to tell me our Foreign Affairs Minister is sitting there for a day and a half with the U.S. Secretary of State, one of the top dogs in U.S. government, somebody who can pick up the phone and get Donald Trump on the other line in seconds, and you didn't even bring it up? You didn't even bring it up. Believe me, I'm very sensitive to the time and a place argument. This was the time and that was the place. And you didn't bring it up with Secretary Rubio. Not even casually, not even a, hey, we're working well on these files. Can we please talk about reopening trade talks? Can you please get a message to President Trump that Prime Minister Carney is ready to make a deal? Nothing. You didn't even bring it up because, and I quote, that's not my file. Well, we're not a serious country here, folks. We're not. That's what our Foreign Affairs Minister does? Gets to meet with the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and doesn't say a word about the trade animosity. You know who had a great comment on this? Someone who I've played frequently on this podcast. She's my former member of parliament and someone that I look up to like you wouldn't believe. She's an incredibly intelligent person, great politician, and I trust her judgment on this government. This is Lisa Raitt yesterday on the CBC show Power and Politics. Let's hear what Lisa has to say about what the Foreign Affairs Minister just said.
I'm not surprised the Globe and Mail got a bit of a taste as to what's in the announcement, given that Marco Rubio was in Niagara-on-the-Lake today. Nobody's talking about the fact that we didn't push him on why we can't get back to the table on negotiating a deal with the United States. Minister Anand was asked about it, and she said, I didn't bring it up because it's somebody else's file. We should be talking about that. That's an important opportunity for us to try to get back to the table. And yet we're talking about Pierre Poilievre, and we're talking about announcements of lists of stuff that won't get built for 15 years.
Okay, but on that, I mean, should the Foreign Affairs Minister be talking to the Secretary of State on trade when Ambassador Hillman's talking to Jameson Greer, Howard Lutnick, and Dom LeBlanc, Donald Trump, and Mark Carney are talking? Like, she'd get in trouble with this Prime Minister, wouldn't she? You know, and Rubio might too.
I would say if we take a Team Canada approach and if we encourage people to talk across the border to anybody they possibly can about the importance of the relationship, then you take every opportunity you possibly can to talk about the importance of the relationship. You don't say, I didn't bring it up at all.
Okay, we're going to have to end it there. Give Lisa.
Yeah, the CBC always does that. When a conservative makes a good point and they just can't argue it anymore, they have to take a break. That's their MO. So I think that that's a pretty damning condemnation of the foreign affairs minister and her activities there in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Seems like it was probably just a waste of money. You know, job one right now is resolving the dispute with America, and she didn't even bring it up with one of the most powerful and connected politicians in America. That's really, really sad. I'm going to play a little bit more of the foreign affairs minister here. I've got two more clips to go from Anita here. This is her talking about the latest round of punishments for Russia.
As G7 president in 2025, Canada has made it a priority to maintain and strengthen our support for Ukraine at every opportunity. Canada will continue to ensure that Russia's actions do not go unpunished. So today we are announcing a new package of sanctions to further increase the economic costs to Russia of waging war. Canada is a leader in targeting the military technologies that Russia is relying on in its war against Ukraine. With these and other steps, we are taking concrete action and sending a clear message. Those who enable Russia's war will face consequences under Canadian law. Canada will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine in the short, medium, and long term. The sovereignty of Ukraine, its territorial integrity, is one of our top priorities internationally.
Just so you know, that clip was somewhat edited for time, but none of the context was removed from that clip. The foreign affairs minister announcing new sanctions, I guess, against Russia. Let me ask you a serious question. This apparently serious government has been saying for years now, we're doing absolutely everything we can to discourage Russian aggression against Ukraine. We're doing everything we can. We're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this situation. Then how do we keep coming up with new ways to introduce new punishments for Russia? These new sanctions, if they're going to be helpful in punishing the Russians, why didn't we do it years ago? And how many more tools do we have to pull out of that toolbox? Is there 10, 20, 30 more things that we could do? And if there are, why don't we just do them now? I don't understand, but it's dishonest of this government to do that sort of thing. And by the way, a little off topic, but on. We seized a Russian airplane at Pearson Airport shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine. And maybe you're aware that it costs tens of thousands of dollars to park a plane at Pearson Airport. Well, that plane has been sitting there for years. How much have the Canadian taxpayers paid to the Greater Toronto Airports Authority to have that plane sitting there? And how much longer are we going to continue burning through thousands of dollars a day of taxpayer money to prove a point? Why don't we just scrap it? If it's airworthy, then fly it somewhere else. At least move it to another airport that's cheaper. Why is it still sitting there right off the 427 in Toronto? Is it like a trophy of some sort? Hey, fine. If you want a trophy, take a trophy, but not at the cost of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day. How much longer are they going to waste our money on that topic? Very, very frustrating. Here's the second clip that I want to play from Anita, third overall. This is her talking about more money that the government is pledging to Gaza this time.
And Canada certainly welcomes the peace plan and President Trump's work to end the war in Gaza. It's crucial. Canada has placed almost $400 million in humanitarian aid, much of it with international organizations, some of it remaining on trucks in areas like Jordan. We need that aid to flow. It is contemplated in the peace plan, and humanitarian aid must flow. Gaza must be demilitarized with no displacement of the Palestinian people.
400 million tax dollars over to Gaza. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm not. I just give up. This is what I'll say. This is what I'll say about aid to Gaza, aid to Ukraine, aid to wherever it is that they plan on handing out aid. When you send that money overseas, a lot of it is going to get siphoned off by the powers that be and laundered. So when we send 400 million, please don't for a second think that the Palestinian people are going to see even a penny of that. It goes to international aid organizations, and God knows what they do with it. And second point, look at me numbering my points like Prime Minister Carney does. Maybe that guy's rubbing off on me. I'll tell you what, when we don't have money to spend, we certainly cannot be taking care of other countries. And that's just the way it is. You heard Pierre Poilievre earlier say one of the ways that we're going to save money under a Poilievre government is to cut down on the amount of foreign aid that we send out. You know, we used to send out foreign aid to impoverished countries, and there were specific guidelines for how they could spend the money. If we were sending money to a famine-ravished area, it would be to drill new wells and try and create a water supply, or it would be to clean up dirty water, things like that, to give people the necessities of life. I don't know where this money is going in Gaza. What are we doing with that $400 million? It's not all rice. It's not. All that money that we send to Ukraine, what is going on over there? Because every time I see pictures or video from Ukraine, it's usually the capital and people are sitting on patios. You'd never even know there's a war going on. How many billions or trillions of dollars are we going to send over there to rebuild Ukraine? Hey, listen, foreign aid, also known as charity, is not a bad thing. But you know, as well as I know, when you don't have enough money in your own household, you can't donate to charity. You can't give away what you don't have. Are we going to create inflation in Canada by printing money to send to other countries? Because if we are, I'm not here to change your mind. You've heard it. You know what's going on. You decide how you feel about that. I'm going to move on. One more person that we want to hear from on this episode is Ontario Premier Doug Ford. I don't even know where he was yesterday, but he announced he was breaking ground on a battery storage project. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, but I'm more interested in the Q&A with reporters. Listen to this.
Premier Katie Griffin from CTV News, Ottawa.
Hi, Katie.
Have a bit of a two-part for my first question on school board supervisors. They were brought in to rein in spending amid concerns of mismanagement. How do you justify paying them up to $350,000 with an expense account?
So let's talk about that. If you add up the dysfunction of our school boards, and I'll tell you a story. I was in the store the other day. A teacher comes up and says, "Thank you. Do not stop with the school boards. There's a mismanagement of money." And by the way, if you add up all the school trustees' salaries, we're saving $200,000, and we're saving millions and millions of dollars running the school boards more efficiently. Running the school boards and making sure that these school board trustees don't decide to take a trip to Italy. Folks, you might not have heard of this one. This is a classic. Take a trip to Italy, nail the taxpayers for $120,000 to buy some Italian, I love the Italians, ask Lecce, but buy Italian artwork for $100,000. Who does this stuff? People that are reckless. Who goes out and decides, and I love the Blue Jays before they were going, it was this year I believe, why don't we all go out there on a junket, buy a box for over $20,000 and let's go waste taxpayers' money? Or the nerve of some of the school trustees waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't even wake up hungry at 2 o'clock in the morning. Look at the size of me. But they decide to order some burgers and chocolate shakes at 2 in the morning. And guess what? They charge the taxpayers for the $8. That's the sickening part. They don't give two hoots about taxpayers' money. For the first time ever, Minister Paul Calandra is holding them accountable, and I can tell you the teachers are as happy as anything. They tell us, I just spoke to a teacher this morning on the way here, keep going, we support you 1,000%, and then we're going to be giving purchasing cards to teachers to actually go out and buy pencils and pens and paper because the school board's too busy wasting the money. So thank you for letting me rant about these school boards that haven't been held accountable in God knows since before Moses.
Okay, I'm going to cut off the premier on that answer there, and I'm just going to call him the way I see him. That's what I try to do here in this pod. Number one, I strongly disagree with the premier that all teachers feel that what he is doing is appropriate. But, and hear me out for a second here, because I do have some knowledge on this. I think everybody who listens regularly and my longtime listeners understand that the love of my life, my wonderful girlfriend, works as an administrator in education. So I know a few things about this. I hear a lot. I meet a lot of people, and I think we should let the premier go through this exercise. I think we should let the education minister go through this exercise. To just assume that these school boards are running at peak efficiency is very, very naive, and it's probably going to cost taxpayer money. To just assume that these school board trustees ran for the position and take the salary and are qualified to do it and do it for the right reasons is naive, because they too have an agenda. And when you let that particular layer of government, which in my estimation, we don't even need, the school board trustees is an entire layer of government that I think we could get rid of. When we find out that they're abusing taxpayer money, well, it makes me wonder, how long has that been going on? Why are they allowed to do that? Is nobody double checking their expenses? The answer is no. Nobody is. These people think that because they got elected, the bank accounts are their own personal bank accounts that they can just slush money around in. Listen, maybe they're not all bad, but certainly some of them are. To the point where the province had to take over a few of the school boards because of how badly money was being managed. We want every penny that we spend on education to go towards education. Preferably right to the classroom, so that teachers and EAs and students have every resource they need to have a great learning environment, a safe learning environment, a positive learning environment. But when money is getting siphoned off for an unnecessary layer of government, and these people are abusing that money and expensing stuff that they shouldn't be expensing, then we got to ask ourselves, why do we have this layer of government, these school board trustees, and are they really the best, most qualified people to run our education system? I believe teachers and administrators, those on the front lines, are the best people to run our education system. And that's why I firmly believe that parents should be able to decide where they want to send their kids to school, and may the best schools get the most students. And we can only do that if we move to a voucher system. Every year, you're entitled to 1 year of free education, and you can give that voucher to whatever school you want your kid to go to. And if it's a Montessori school, fine. If a regular public school wants to go it alone and break away from the school board and just teach the reading, writing, and arithmetic and get real good results for the students, maybe I want to send my kid there, and that voucher would go to that school. You watch how quickly things turn around when schools have to compete against each other to get the best, most qualified teachers and EAs, and to get students coming to their school to earn your voucher. That voucher is worth about $14,500 per kid. You watch how quickly things turn around when schools have to be directly accountable to parents, or they lose the kid because parents will just take their voucher next year and send it to a different school. It's the best way forward. Listen, you're going to hear the media crap all over this because, well, they're apologists for these slimy trustees who are abusing taxpayer money. But make no mistake, this needs to be done. If it goes too far, I'll call it out as having gone too far. But for now, I think we give the premier and the education minister just enough rope. Go out there and find out what you can find. Find out if we can run these school boards for less. Find out how much taxpayer money got wasted, and let's resolve to not let that happen again by putting common sense procedures in place so that can't happen again. And if we determine we don't even need these school board trustees, what do? We've already got principals and administrators in schools. Then we've got superintendents above them. Then we've got the executives at the school board. Then we've got the Ministry of Education. What do we need that other layer for at all? It's costing us millions and millions and millions of dollars that could go directly to the classroom. So I'm giving the premier a pass here. I don't expect results or answers or even much accountability on this topic right now. I want to see where this goes and see if we can do things better. And if we can, then I'm all in favor of it because we spend a hell of a lot of money educating kids in this province, and the results, frankly, aren't that great. And it doesn't make sense to me that we're spending as much as we are and getting the results we are under these people leading it. So if these people are the problem, then let's get rid of them and let's make it a good, great education system. Here is another question for Premier Ford.
And the federal government is expected to designate Ontario's Crawford Nickel project as a major national development. What is your reaction to that? And are you disappointed that the tunnel under the 401 is not?
Well, I'm gonna answer this. I'm gonna pass it over about mining to Minister Lecce. It's great that they're doing the Crawford Nickel project. I love it. But let's get out of our way on everything else. Let's get out of our way when it comes to the Ring of Fire. Make sure we have one project, one process until we don't have duplication from the federal government. We need to be talking about large-scale nuclear. And I don't know if we're going to hear about that, but that's a key area that we need investment on. We need investment on the Ring of Fire. We need investment on the tunnel because we know the tunnel is costing the economy $56 billion each and every single year. We have the busiest highway in North America. So we're going to get it done, and we'd appreciate all the support they can give us. But over to my Minister of Mining as well.
No, the government is not going to get behind that tunnel under the 401. So now we've got another choice to make. Premier Ford can spend only Ontario taxpayer money and build the tunnel alone. But he would like the federal government to step up and chip in. Or, and hear me out. Again, Premier Ford insisting it costs, $56 million a year to the economy because of lost productivity, because people are sitting in gridlock on the 401. Why don't we buy back the 407? I'm told the purchase price would be somewhere between $40 and $70 billion. If we have $56 billion a year that we're losing, take that 1 year loss and buy back the highway. You could even recoup some of that $56 billion by not making it no toll, but making it low toll. Reasonable rates so families can use it and they don't have to make that impossible choice again. There's far too many people that are sitting in gridlock on the 401 and their kids got a T-ball game at 6 o'clock and they're not going to make it unless they take the 407. But if they take the 407, well, that's going to be a $40 ride and they don't have that $40 right now. For a premier who is so obsessed with making the cost of living affordable for the middle class. He says that is what he does every day. He's constantly trying to make things more affordable for people, and he has put his money where his mouth is. He got rid of the sticker fee that we pay every year and a whole bunch of other things. I don't understand why he is happy letting people get jammed for massive, massive bills because they didn't want to miss their kid's game or because they just wanted to get home after a long day's work. The 407 is there. It's open. People could use it, but they can't afford to use it because the company that runs it has just gone completely roughshod with the pricing. Doug, do the right thing. Annex the 407. Take that 1 year of loss, $56 billion, give it to the 407, buy them out, and say thanks, but we will never sell a highway again. Friends, that's going to do it for me today. Real excited about tomorrow's Listener DMs episode. I hope you can check it out because we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Until then, I will leave you with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now. See you tomorrow.